Hi, it's Tom from GreenShortz, and I'm standing in my hugelkultur greenhouse. This has been a really fun project to build, but I gotta be honest, I'm still struggling with what to grow. I mean, I'm a maker, right? So it's easy for me to come up with ideas to build things, but then, at least in the case of this garden, I don't know what to plant.
If you build it, he will come.
Did you hear that? It's like a voice. That's weird. It's kind of clear. Anyway, I'm sure it was nothing. Anyway, so I've got my hugelkultur bed down here on this side, and then a raised bed over here that I'm reconditioning the soil in a little bit too. But
if you build it, he will come.
It just happened again. That's really weird. I'm sure I heard something.
Hey, Tom? Tom from GreenShortz?
Joe Lample?
Yeah, man.
From Growing a Greener World?
Yeah.
What are you doing in my yard?
I saw your Instagram post, and I live in Atlanta too, and I just thought I'd kind of pop in. Is that cool?
Well, of course.
Good.
While you're here, I've got a couple questions.
Okay, yeah, come on.
Joe Gardner, what the heck?
How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing well. So, folks, we gotta be honest here. That wasn't a random occurrence. Joe and I are actually friends. We live here in the same city in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yep.
And ran into Joe at the U.S. Composting Council conference a couple weeks ago, and we talked about my new greenhouse and this conundrum that I'm in. I mean, that's the truth. The fact that I really am a builder, but I don't know what to grow.
That's
in
what
my
I'm here for.
greenhouse.
Yeah.
So I have some ideas, but I thought you could help me get started on the right foot.
Totally can help you with that. And you've got some seeds.
I do.
It looks like you did a little bit of homework, because most of the seeds that you have do great in the cool season, which is what we're dealing with right now. You wouldn't want to plant tomatoes in the wintertime, and you wouldn't want to plant spinach in the summertime. So you've done that much of your homework. So we're going to just work with what you have right now, and we're going to plant it. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is they're just afraid to start. But you're not going to learn anything by being afraid to start. You've got to experience what happens based on your efforts to know how to make corrections going forward, and that's what it's all about. If you don't start, you're not going to learn anything.
I will say this, I grew cherry tomatoes last summer. These garden beds were here before my house was here because I wanted the soil to get kind of cooking. So got really good soil here. And I just planted a couple of cherry tomatoes last summer because my neighbor behind me had some volunteers that came up. He tore them out of the ground. I stuck them in the ground. They wilted down to nothing, and then a week later they were, it was amazing. So I know I want to do cherry tomatoes again because they're like ironclad.
Yeah.
But I also want to do food that we eat.
Right.
My wife makes a lot of salads, so I want to do lettuce. She makes this amazing cheddar chowder that uses potatoes. So I've got some potatoes that have gone to seed. I would put myself in the hapless gardener category, but that's exactly what Joe Gardner is for, your website.
It's all about growing like a pro, no experience required. I'm going to take you from not knowing anything to feeling really confident and empowered that you can grow not only anything that you want, but especially the food that you want to eat. And I think that's the best place to start. I mean, if you know that you like salads and you like that soup with those potatoes in it, that's what you want to grow. It's more exciting that way. And there's nothing like harvesting it from your garden and taking it into your kitchen and preparing a delicious meal that came right from your garden.
Right.
How good is that?
Well, one of the downsides of our industrial food system is that they have to, in order to have perfection in the grocery store, they got to pick it before it's ready.
Oh yeah.
And so that time on the vine, if you will, that last influx of nutrients into the vegetable and flavor, we're missing out on that when we buy stuff in the grocery store.
You will never taste anything from the grocery store that tastes nearly as good as what you grow in your own garden.
So location's important, but soil's important too. I've got, in the greenhouse, I've got that hugelkultur bed. I've got a lot of compost in these raised beds out here. I know you've got some videos on joegardner.com and on your YouTube channel that talk about preparing the soil.
It's all about the soil. If you don't start with healthy soil, how are the plants that you're growing, how's that fruit, how are those vegetables going to take up those nutrients and those minerals if they're not there to begin with? You got to get them there first.
And the great thing is that there are some organic ways to do that.
Yeah.
With actually waste products from your yard.
all that organic material, and I just love the fact that you're calling it soil versus dirt. Dirt is dead, soil is full of life. And if you feed the soil, like with what you're talking about, grass clippings, composted leaves, shredded mulch, scraps from your kitchen after dinner, put that all in and let it break down, add that to your soil, that's going back into your delicious food that you're putting back in the kitchen, and it really closes the loop.
So actually I do a lot of videos about sustainability, and sort of the cycle of things, but composting and gardening is the only way that really individuals can complete the cycle, where we're taking food, turning it back into compost, and then turning it back into food again. We can't smelt aluminum. We don't have an aluminum rolling mill, but we can do that with our food, and what better thing to do it with than something that's feeding us?
Well, not only are you keeping all those scraps out of the landfill, but you're creating the best possible soil amendment that you can buy. I mean, in fact, you can't even buy it as good as you can make it for free using the waste that's generated right from inside and outside your house.
So my visit to joegardener.com last week, just to get to know you a little bit better, I picked up the free ebook.
Nice, yeah. 5 steps to your best garden ever and why what you do now matters most.
So one of the terms that stood out to me in the book is the word desiccation, and how when we use chemical fertilizers, we're actually building up salts in the soil.
Yeah, those synthetic chemicals, those fertilizers, are really salt-based. And when you use too much of that, that can build up in your soil. And if you're trying to add life back to your soil, well, salt doesn't promote that. Salt kills life in the soil when you have too much built up there. So instead, you want to use compost. You want to use organic material that's going to feed those microbes and all that living matter that's in the soil, so that it just continues to propagate and promote and expand for everything you're trying to grow.
That's great. Well, one thing I can say about my garden beds here and the greenhouse is that I'm purely organic. So I've got wood chips and compost from the kitchen, some worm castings as well have gone in there. Why don't we take a look at the seeds I've got and see if I'm on the right track?
Let's do it.
All right, so Joe, this is my attempt to get started here. And what I've got is, I've got some lettuce, some kale, and some carrots that I got from High Mowing Seed.
Good company.
And then they also had this Italian garlic.
Yum.
So that's ready to plant. And then my wife was lamenting that these potatoes were starting to put out their eyes. And I'm like, don't throw those away. I want to see if I can grow those.
Exactly.
So again, this is stuff that we would have as part of our regular meals in the Mills house. And so that's kind of what I wanted to give a shot to grow.
Perfect.
So what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so my thoughts are, here we are in the middle of February, and so you've got some great cool season crops here, and these seeds, carrots and kale and lettuce, those are all great things to grow when it's cooler from seed. Now, it's a little too early to plant them directly into the ground or sow them outdoors right now, so it's recommended at this time of year that you would sow those seeds either indoors or in a controlled environment, and your greenhouse is going to be perfect for that.
Right.
Okay? Now, garlic. Typically we plant garlic in the fall.
Right.
And here we are a few months later, but here's what I want you to do. Not going to wait until fall to plant these.
Okay.
That won't be good. We're going to plant them right now, because what's the worst case scenario? We learned something. We learned that we shouldn't plant them in the wintertime, right?
Or maybe they don't get as big.
Right.
But
Maybe
at least they get a chance to propagate.
But I'm betting that if we plant them now, with a little luck, you're going to have garlic this summer. You may harvest it later than early summer when you typically would when you plant it in the fall, but we're going to find that out, and we're going to learn one way or the other whether or not we can get away with planting it in February.
Right.
And you're going to let me know.
Right, I will do that.
Okay.
So what about my potatoes? Are these workable? I mean, the eyes are coming out.
Well, the eyes are what you want to see. That's telling us that we're going to have future growth. And you don't plant the entire potato. Now you could, but that would be wasting it, because all you need is an eye to form a new plant. So what you're going to do is you're going to cut these into sections. So each section is going to have an eye coming out of it. But you don't want to plant it directly into the ground as soon as you make the cut.
Right.
You want these to cure, and you want that skin to harden off a little bit. That's going to kind of give a protective layer and prevent it from rotting.
So I cut those, let them sit for several days.
Couple days, and then you plant them in the ground, and you can go ahead and plant them underground. These will seek the light. So they will come up, and then you continue. As these continue to grow up, you're going to continue to mound new soil over it. And you're going to plant them about a foot apart. And in a couple months, 3 months or so, you'll be able to reach down there and you can get some new potatoes, or you can let them grow a little bit longer and the potatoes will become bigger. But the beauty of it is, before summer, you're going to have some new potatoes from these potatoes.
Awesome. So should that be in the greenhouse or in one of my raised beds here?
I would put these in raised beds because
Okay.
you can. The beauty of planting potatoes is that you can do it this time of year outside.
Yes.
They're not bothered by this weather in this climate in Zone 7.
Okay, so let's talk about my seeds then.
Okay.
I've got kale.
Yep.
My kids love kale chips, which
Oh.
is it's pretty exciting when your kids will eat a kale chip.
Yeah.
And we use them in salads as well. And then I've got some lettuce also, some leaf lettuce.
Yeah.
And then I've got some carrots as well. So which of those should go in the greenhouse, or should they go outside, or what do I do?
Well, the one thing I would plant outside, just because carrots are a root crop, you really don't want to disturb them once they start growing, and you really want to leave those undisturbed. So you want to plant those outside. Now, as to the timing of planting those directly into the soil right now, mid-February, they are a cool season crop, but we'll see. And again, the cost of a pack of carrot seeds is a couple bucks, and that's your worst case scenario if they don't take. But better to plant them probably outside than inside.
So raised bed for the carrots.
Yeah.
But what about the kale and the lettuce?
Okay, and because it's mid-February here and it can still get down into the 20s and maybe teens, that's a little too cold for those seeds right now. So you've got room in your greenhouse to plant these. And what you could do in 30 days is reassess the situation and transplant them from inside to outside. Ideally, the outside environment in the cool weather is perfect for kale and lettuce and things like that. But if you leave it inside and let it grow to maturity, you're going to be fine too, because once these put out leaves, you can start harvesting. You don't have to wait
That's right.
until they get to a certain size.
So we're not talking about a head of lettuce.
Right.
You come in and pick around the edge and
Right.
make a small salad. And I love that because then that lets the plant continue to grow. And am I going to be concerned about those going to seed? Do I need to?
Only when it gets hotter.
Okay.
Once this starts to go to seed, that's called bolting, and that typically happens when it gets much hotter, and you've got plenty of time before that happens. But the beauty of harvesting these as they start to form leaves is they'll continue to grow, and you harvest from the outside. It's called a cut and come again crop.
Okay.
So you can continue to cut, and it continues to come back.
This is exciting because I feel like I know enough now to take that next step to get these in the ground. And I will make another video about planting my greenhouse. So, and one thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a planting board, because I saw that video
Yep.
on your YouTube channel with a really simple tool, because plant spacing is important.
It is. And it's nice to have a guide so you're not having to wonder how far apart is a foot or 6 inches or 3 inches. And it gives you an opportunity to keep it in a straight line. And you can make it for a couple of bucks in under 5 minutes.
So you can check out that video on Joe's YouTube channel, and actually I'll link the channel here and in the description below. You can also find Joe on Growing a Greener World, and that's on PBS stations all across the country. So how can they find the show?
GrowingTheGreenWorld.com, you can go to that website and there's a station finder tab right on the home page. Click the tab and put in your zip code, and it's going to bring up all the shows for the next month in your area, assuming that we're in your area, and we're in most of the country, so you'll probably find us that way.
In fact, I know you were mentioning when I showed you my high mowing seeds that you've got an episode in the next season where you're going to visit them.
Yeah, this June we're going to High Mowing Seeds because it's such a great seed company. It was started by a guy in his backyard from seeds that he saved, and it's grown from there. It's a member-run company, and they just have fantastic product and plenty of varieties, and they're certified organic seed, and there's nothing wrong with that.
And then lastly, you can find Joe at joegardner.com. And
Right.
I think that's the site for me,
Yeah.
because your mission there really is to help those backyard gardeners that are like me, that maybe have a blank slate, but they don't know what to do next.
I want to give you the confidence, assuming that you may not know anything coming in. It's not to say that our website doesn't serve experienced gardeners, because it does as well, but my focus is on the Tom Mills of the world, the guys that want to take the next step, and they want to learn to grow like a pro, but they don't have to have any experience first, and that's exactly where we're at. And so stick with me on joegardner.com, call me when you need me, and we're going to make you a great gardener.
I'm going to be a Joe Gardner. And I also will say this, that Joe does have a channel on YouTube, and a lot of the content that you can find on joegardner.com is also there. You've got a blog on joegardner.com, but the videos that are on the website are also on YouTube. So would love for that folks to go there as well, and we'll
Yeah.
link that channel here above. So, and while Joe's here in town, we're gonna walk across the street to a local farm-to-table place called Public House, 1910 Public House. The owner there, Tony, is gonna meet us because he wants to start a garden in the back of the restaurant. In fact, he had someone start it, and it looks even worse than mine right now. So Joe and I are gonna walk over there. We're gonna have a nice farm-to-table lunch, and then we're gonna do a quick video with Tony where Joe's gonna tell him about how he can get his garden project that's stalled up and running. You can see that video on Joe's YouTube channel, and I'll link that here as well. And then we already talked about all the ways you can find Joe's amazing content about growing a greener world, even when that world happens to be right in your backyard. So Joe, thanks so much for coming out today. It's been a lot of fun. Good to see you again.
Yeah.
And I have to say, we look like a pumpkin here in our orange and green, but that's probably kind of
It's okay.
true. Yeah.
It's okay.
We'll go with that. Thanks so much for watching. And always our mission here at GreenShortz is to help you see green so you can be green and save a little green by doing it yourself. I'm really excited to have some green to do myself here with vegetables to grow here in my backyard to go right into my kitchen. So as always, please like and share and subscribe for a new GreenShortzDIY video almost every Friday. All right, let's go get some lunch.
Yeah.